Hello, my friends. It's me. I'm back. Um, yeah, I know I don't come on here frequently. Like I really need to get better at making and staying consistent on making videos. But that being said, life is crazy. So, yeah. Life has been honestly a whirlwind recently. Um, just a lot's been going on and I'll probably get into that eventually, but I kind of want to start it, English, wanted to start talking about kind of the onset of my depression, like when I first noticed it and kind of going through year by year, what happened. And so today I'm going to talk about kind of the onset of it and kind of up until my first psych admission. I have notes because it's a lot to remember. But yeah, so here we go. So in the summer of 2012, I was just going into grade 9, so the summer leading into grade 9. I remember, I don't remember the exact onset of the depression, but I remember just feeling garbage. I just felt so low self-esteem, low mood, low energy, everything. And so that summer I was actually at provincials for swimming or water polo and swimming, BCSSA kind of stuff. And I remember I snapped at someone. I just snapped at someone's mom. And I was 14 years old. And I obviously felt bad and I apologized and whatnot. But my dad kind of sat me down and was like, you need to stop. And I guess I had been snapping at people, just being quick tempered, up to that point. And my dad was like, you need to stop snapping at people. And in that moment, I kind of was like, Dad, I want to die. I'm just so done. I'm exhausted. I want to die. And nothing really came of that. It was kind of I don't want to hate on my parents because my parents have been so supportive in all of this. But it was kind of just swept under the rug. No one really talked about it. I didn't talk about it. My parents didn't talk about it. And so, yeah. So I started grade 9 and this feeling got worse and worse. And, at 14 years old, you're just a kid, right? You're experiencing so many new things and you're feeling all these big emotions. And, I didn't know how to portray that. I didn't know how to explain how I was feeling. And so when I was about 14 years old in grade 9, I don't know, I think it was a cry for help. I started self-harming and it was a cry for help, honestly. I didn't know what to do. I felt angry and numb and all these emotions and I didn't know what to do, so I started self-harming. And I went to my favorite teacher in grade 9, my favorite teacher ever in high school. And I went to her and I said, hey, this is how I feel. This is what's going on. This is what I'm doing. And she was like, thank you for telling me. And so together, I went to the school counselor. And I was so this is it. I'm going to get the help I need. We're going to figure this out. So I went to the school counselor and we just started talking. We talked about my swimming and my water polo and my coaching and my grades in school and all that kind of stuff. And she looks at me and she goes, yeah, you just have low iron. Didn't know you were a doctor, but okay. So she was like, go to your doctor, get an iron test, check your vitamins, like that sort of thing. And so I did, and I just went to my doctor, and she was like, what do you need to see me for? And I was like, oh, I just want to check my vitamin levels because I have never gotten that done. And she was like, oh, good call. So I got all my vitamins checked, all those levels, and iron's normal, vitamin B's normal, like everything's normal. Actually, did I even check vitamin B? I don't know, but she said everything came back normal. I know for a fact iron came back normal. So I was like, okay. So in that time frame, like, I guess I had told the school counselor, like, I do want to die, I feel depressed, like all this kind of stuff. And so she called my mom. And my mom kind of took it from the standpoint that, like, everybody feels this way, like, just persevere, just be strong, that sort of thing. So from 2012 up until about September 2016, I just tried to do my best. I was super high functioning. I was still getting pretty decent grades. I was an active member in the swim clubs and water polo and CrossFit and like everything that I did. And I feel like I hid everything really well because I had been told, like, everybody feels this way, kind of buck up, do what you need to do, sort of thing. So I just pushed everything down and pushed everything down. But I still felt the same. In fact, it started to get worse. And so in September 2016, I started university. And when I started university, I've always done poorly with change. Like, I remember having an anxiety attack going into grade 8. And then kind of that same thing, like when I went to university, I like had severe anxiety. I remember like there was one day I called my mom crying from my car in the Chilliwack parking lot at school. And I was like, I can't do this. And she was like, you're fine. Like, buck up, kid. Like, you can do this. You're there. Like, just go into class. But I wasn't doing well. So I went to the doctor and I was like, hey, I think I'm depressed. And she goes, mild depression, let's put you on some medication. So between September 2016 and August 2019, we tried a couple things. So we tried citalopram, which didn't work. We tried escitalopram, which didn't work. We tried sertraline, which didn't work. And we tried venlafaxine, which didn't work. But while I was taking venlafaxine, when I started venlafaxine, she also referred me to the psych clinic, the psychiatric clinic in Maple Ridge, like Maple Ridge Mental Health and Substance Use Center. And she rapid accessed me because like at this point in January 2019, we like had this conversation and I was like, nothing's getting better. I feel like garbage. Like, I never know what I'm gonna get with myself. Like, some days, like, I can do everything, and some days I can't get out of bed. And she looked at me and she goes, I think you're bipolar. And I was like, okay. And so she rapid accessed me to this Maple Ridge Mental Health and Substance Use Center. And she was like, you'll get a call within a week. This was January 2019. Finally, August 2019, I got a call. August 2019. I should have been called within the week, but in August 2019, so about, 7 months later, I got a call and they were like, hey, we have an appointment for you in September with a psychiatrist. So yeah, I was like, this is perfect. Like, I'm gonna get the help I need. And by this point, like, I'd been failing classes in university. And like anyone that knows me from like high school would have been like, you failed the class. Like, it doesn't happen to me. Like, I worked so hard, and like despite how hard I was working in university, I was going to class, coming home, studying, going to CrossFit, studying. Like, my world revolved around school, and nothing was showing for it. So in September 2019, I had my first psychiatric appointment with a psychiatric doctor, the psychiatrist, and he was like, oh, you probably just have depression. And he started me on fluoxetine, and that didn't work. And then, so we tried that September, October, and then in November 2019, he was like, we were talking, and he's like, I don't think you have depression. And I said, oh, great. What do you think's wrong? And he goes, you have borderline personality disorder. And I was like, okay. Because I was like, he didn't really explain it to me. He's like, go do your research. And I was like, okay. And he goes, we're gonna put you on a mood stabilizer, which will help. And it'll help everything. And I was like, okay. So he put me on 2.5 milligrams of a medication called aripiprazole or Abilify. And that was November 2019. On that medication, like I'm been on that medication to this day. So I have never stopped taking that medication. That being said, that medication and that dosage did not work alone. And what I did find out later was that 2.5 milligrams, like most people under the age of 18 are started on 5 milligrams of aripiprazole, and I was put on 2.5 milligrams and kept on 2.5 milligrams until August 2020. Yeah, August 2020, but we'll touch base about that after. But yeah, I'm on it to this day, but it didn't work by itself, and it didn't work at the dose I was on. So from November 2019 to, well, now I'm on aripiprazole, but eventually the psychiatrist started me on escitalopram with aripiprazole, because I was like, the aripiprazole is not working, I still feel depressed. And he's like, oh, we'll give you a little bit of a antidepressant. So I started on escitalopram. Didn't work. But like at this point, like it'd been years, right? Like we're already in, I think I started escitalopram in like January 2020. So by this time, I'm just like so defeated, so down on myself. Like I'm super suicidal, but like wasn't gonna act on it. But here's the thing, I wasn't gonna act on it at this point, but I thought about it every day. I thought about how much better my life would be if I was gone. I thought about how much better everyone else's life would be if I was gone. And yeah, so that kind of consumed my mind. And then we went into lockdown in like March 2020, and COVID hit, and like it was a whole thing. And then at the end of May, beginning of June 2020, I had my first bout of psychosis, and I don't think I slept that night, like the night leading up to the psychosis. This is like the hard part. Like I'm trying to remember. All I really remember is being in the kitchen. I don't know how long I was in the kitchen for. I think it might have been a few hours. It felt like minutes. But because here's the thing, I remember looking at my like phone upstairs in my bedroom at like 2 a.m. And then I remember being in the kitchen holding a knife, and my dad had woken up, and he usually wakes up about 4:30 in the morning, 4:30, and he woke up and he was like, what are you doing? And I like just start like sobbing, and I'm like, I don't know, like I feel like there's an electric current running through my body. I was like, I don't know what's happening. I just like feel like I'm being told like things, and my dad's like, what? And I was kind of like, I don't know, like I'm freaking out. And so he wakes up my mom, and we start trying to like start talking about things. And I don't remember what was going on in my brain, but I remember freaking out about mom having to go to work. Like I was like, she cannot go to work, like something bad's gonna happen, mom's gonna die, like mom has to stay home. So mom took the day off, and around 7 a.m. I think it was, they took me to the hospital, and I talked to a psychiatrist, and the psychiatrist was like, well, is it still happening? And I was like, well, no, I feel fine now. And she was like, okay, well, here's a prescription for olanzapine, and if this ever happens again, take the olanzapine. And I was like, okay. Didn't happen again. But it progressively got worse and worse. And I remember we finally got back to work, I want to say like the beginning of July 2020, and I was working for a swim club. I was the head coach for the first time. I was like super stoked, but like I just felt so drained and exhausted and numb and like all these things, and it got worse and worse and worse. And then I started making plans to kill myself. I had notes written for my mom and my dad and my sister. And I told myself on August 18th, I told myself, like, I'm gonna go coach a practice. And then on my way home, I'm just gonna pull over because I was coaching in Langley. And before heading on to the bridge to get back into Pitt Meadows Maple Ridge, I was gonna pull off to the side, walk up, and I was gonna climb the fence because why not? And just jump. I was like, at that height, water's cement, and I would not survive. And even if I did survive that fall hitting the water, the current would take me. And that was the plan. And as much as like I'm like, I want to die, like I'm so done, I'm so over it, there was like this little bit of like hope in me that like maybe someone can help me. No one had helped me by this point, and I was like, maybe someone can help me. So instead of pulling over at Golden Ears Bridge, I just kept driving, and I drove to the hospital. And I was sobbing uncontrollably. And the person at the front desk is like, hey, like, what do you need to see a doctor for? And I was like, I basically told her, I was like, I've been suicidal for like years, but I have a plan and I almost acted on it, but I came here instead and I don't know what to do and I'm really scared and I'm just like, I'm a mess. And she was like, okay. So they kind of like, they start the process. I saw a psych nurse, I saw the like regular ER doctor, and then I saw a psychiatrist. And between the three of them, they were like, we need to admit this girl. And so on August 18th of 2020 was my first time being admitted into the psych ward. And I think I'm going to talk about that like trip in another video, but like, yeah. So from 2016 from 2014 until like August 2020, I freaking just progressively got worse and worse. And yeah. But yeah, that's kind of the start and like the onset of my depression. And it sucks because like I look back and I'm like, if people had just believed me, like maybe I wouldn't have to have gone through everything I did. But at the same time, it's like everything I've gone through has made me who I am today. And yeah, but more to come on that. But yeah, that's kind of the onset of it. It's weird to tell that story, especially about the like planning on jumping sort of thing. And like, it's scary because like I don't get that way often, but I have, and like that's not a feeling I would even wish on my worst enemy, you know? And it's scary. Like your head is so, like everything is so dark. And I'm really thankful that I've always had a little bit of hope. Like there's always been like, even like the littlest ounce was like, I was like, maybe someone can help me. Maybe I should try one more time. And And I think going to the hospital in August of 2020 kind of, and like being like finally listened to and heard, I was like, my God, people want to help. Like, people believe me. Finally, people believe me. And yeah, so that's kind of that. We'll continue this on another day, but thank you for listening to that crazy story. And yeah, love you guys. Take care.